Everyone. So this is the 4th annual Creativity and Culture Conference, and I think all of you have been, well, apart from Louise. I think, Louise, this is the first year that I've had a conversation with yourself, but everyone else, at least twice, I've had a conversation with. So thank you very much for remaining with, taking part in this conversation, and every year it seems to evolve. Peter, I'm sure that you will testify to that, because I remember one of my first conversations with you, it was about, does creativity have to be valuable? And we've progressed so much from that, haven't we, over the years?
Yeah, very much so.
That was one of the first kind of things. It's like, not everyone agrees with that.
Yeah.
Everyone agrees that presence is important, because presence is the starting point. So this year's theme is presence, emergence, and impact. So what I'll do is I'll ask each one of you to just, say what your perspective is on that, and then we'll share comments on what everyone has said, if that's okay. So let me start with Peter, since I've kind of, just spoken about you already. So Peter, would you please introduce yourself and let us know what your perspective is on presence, emergence, and impact?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Peter Griffiths. I'm a leadership and creativity coach. I guess for me, it's just about being present in that moment. For me, it's like a state of mind, like we're talking right now in real time. You're more likely to have the emergence of something really creative. I guess it very well might have the kind of impact you want on the world if you're in that state of mind. But as you know, I mean, I haven't got anything on it. It's for other people to judge whether it's impactful or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you. Louise?
Yeah, I think for anything creative to emerge, you've just got to be in that sort of state of being in the flow, where you are present in that moment, where you are either concentrating on the thing that you're doing, whether like myself as an artist, or whether it's something else that you're doing creatively. But also if you're sort of problem solving at work, I mean, that is a creative process, isn't it? And so when I sit down to paint, I might have spent a long time daydreaming about a particular thing I want to paint, or sometimes I can just sit down, be in the right flow in that moment, just have a blank piece of paper, my materials, and just go with it. Whether it makes an impact, well, it has an impact on myself personally, because I've enjoyed the process of what I've been doing, but it's for other people to say whether my art has an impact on them, because for me, art and sometimes creativity is such a personal thing, and we all see different things, so it can have a wide meaning.
Okay, Richard?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, Richard, I'm a brand consultant, but also a creative coach. But this morning I woke up with a totally different narrative to what I was going to say, which is part of it, isn't it? It washed upon the shore, and I picked it up and I read it and I thought, gosh, I've got to just share this. It took me back to when I was a child, and I felt so beautiful and so special. And I can say that in a way that it wasn't because I judged myself against anybody else. Within me was this beauty and this specialness. And I was present in it, and like, it was amazing. And the story goes that actually it stayed with me until I went to art college. And when I was at art college, I saw these trendy people and became conscious of myself and that people judged you. And I lost all that presence. And actually I left art college less creative than when I joined, because I lost what was the essence of this, which is being present, letting things emerge from that beauty around that just was in you. And that was what was really interesting. And that's what came to me this morning. So yeah, it was like quite powerful for me.
That does sound very powerful. And it,
yes.
I think you're right. There's this thing about competition. Competition can sometimes knock the creativity out of us.
Totally. It was the first time I'd never bought myself any clothes ever in my life. My parents bought them when I went on holiday, and that was it, or school. And when I went to university, there's all these trendy people with things in their hair and all that sort of stuff. And I was in brown cords, brown trousers. And I thought, they judge you, not because they can see what's inside. And I just felt people could see what was inside, and they couldn't. And that was a real shock to me. I mean, you know, life goes by and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that was that was for me what it was about, the emergence of what is naturally within us.
Yeah. Okay, great. And Steve?
I just say hello, everyone. So I'm Steve. I'm an artist and writer and speaker. They're the labels that feel less inconvenient, so I use them. For me, the definition that you've given it, or the subject matter, is essentially what creativity is for me. It's an unfurling of meaning from the present moment. And in the chat that I had with you, I spoke about this idea that putting in effort to try and make creative stuff or be creative seems to be counterintuitive, whereas presence for me is being open to offers, to being open to like the whispers of stuff that you can develop, and just letting them lead you wherever you want them to go. I always say with my projects, I don't have objectives because they'll take me far more interesting places than I would have taken them. And then the impact, as Louise said, I don't know what the impact is, but impact is equally, wow, that's amazing, I want to pay you money. Impact is equally, this is the most ridiculous rubbish thing I've ever seen. They're both impact in my books.
Right. Okay, great. And Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle James, and I have a Center for Creative Emergence. So these topics are very real for me too. I agree with what everyone said about presence. I think that's the entry point, first getting present. And I know from a facilitation coach perspective, I do that for myself, and also getting people, whoever you're facilitating or coaching, before you start in with whatever's trying to emerge, getting into some sort of present state, whether that's through some kind of creative means or just stopping and reflecting or meditation, but some way of getting present, because like the others have said, then you have suddenly access to so much more than if your mind is thinking of other things or if you're harried or rushed. And so I think presence is the entry point to creativity and emergence. And then like Richard was saying, that place inside of you, I call it the fertile unknown, because I feel it's alive and ripe with all kinds of creativity. And if we learn to have a different relationship with that unknown, where it's not something to be feared, but it actually contains anything that wants to emerge, and that we start to actively cultivate it, I think then we can get new and surprising creations, new results, new emergences. And as far as impact, I think that the impact would be what we create and produce, or what happens in the room between people. And also, when we are fully present and coming from our inner creative source of creativity, our wellspring, I think it has an impact through resonance. Other people just naturally tune in, feel it, it connects to something. So I think one impact is it resonates, and it might inspire or activate or call someone or ourselves into something.
Okay, yes. That concept of resonance is very deep, isn't it? Because it cuts across all the different dimensions. It's not simply in the physical dimension, is it?
Right. And I think it's a felt sense. So it's different for each person, and it's something that emerges. It's not something you can contrive necessarily. You set the conditions and hope that it emerges.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Irina?
Well, I believe we all agree. Just want to build a little bit on the topic of the impact. If we start from this point that, we start with the present, and being present here now is like prerequisite for me to be able to enter into this state where I can be deeply connected to myself, but at the same time being open to the world. And then it allows the emergence of the new meanings, of new relationships, even with those parts that we mentioned that, like, I felt judged before and I lost my creativity, then I can consciously enter into this state where I can just start playing for looking for new relationship with this part of myself that was feeling hurt before. And so this emergence of the new meanings, new insights, new relationships, then will have impact on the world. Although we might not know what this impact is. Neither the world nor myself, because this emergence of the new in me will cause just a little shift of the energies around me. And it will cause the chain reaction of other little shifts, which in the end will lead to the result that no one will be able to relate to me. But if we don't see the relationship, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So it's really, I think this present is the most important thing, because I think, unlike if I understood the Michelle before, I don't quite agree with it. This is the only thing that we can control. It's really it really depends on me if I'm in this state or not. All the rest, I just may allow it to happen.
Okay. All right, great. Does anybody have any comments on what you've heard anybody else say? There isn't a hand, so yeah, go ahead.
Was just touching something on what Richard had said about his earlier experience of being at art college. I think I've been lucky coming to painting later in life, so I haven't had any formal training. And it's interesting, I was getting guided from people seeing some of my art and then saying, well, you should only paint one theme. Whereas, and you get known for that, and that's very much, I suppose, an art world sort of way of approaching stuff, where I sort of look and sort of thinking, actually, nobody else's opinion should be of interest to me when I'm creating my art. It doesn't mean to say ignore good advice, but when I sit down to paint and I get in that moment, I do have a structure in my day, so whatever I do is I sit down and I create something, and whatever comes to do. So I think it's about, you want to sort of share things with the world, but you want to take from it what actually works in with your creativity and what you want to do. And also your competition really is within yourself, it's not with other people. And for me, that frees myself up to whatever I put down in my art is, and what I can share with others when I'm helping them be creative. You can't do anything wrong in art. It is what it is. And allow yourself that almost like childlike freedom to say, whatever you've done, you've done. And if you want to do it differently next time, then just do something different. And then by that way, you can impact and maybe encourage other people around you to sort of say, right, if nobody's judging me, if I'm not in competition, they can be creative and get in with the flow. I think it gives them more confidence to actually have a go at doing it themselves. And the current situation, actually, I see has allowed a lot of people to explore being creative that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise have done, and I think that's fantastic.
I do remember you saying during our conversation that you don't have any competition, and that's because you know that the kind of people that you attract to your art, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for your kind of art. So you're not competing with anybody because you are very clear about who your customers are or who your audience is.
Well, I suppose from that point of view, yes, I've identified the sort of people that would like what I do, but I paint for myself. Even if I'm painting a commission, I never take a commission on where I wouldn't enjoy painting a particular subject, because why do it? It's not, money's nice, thank you, we all need it. But, there's no point in me creating something that doesn't give me some sort of internal satisfaction or joy. But regarding the competition, what I'm saying is that other artists are not my competition. Do you know what I mean? Because people will find whoever they want to connect with. And so therefore, I prefer to collaborate with other artists rather than being in competition with them, because we're all bringing something, to the party, if you like. I need to be worried about what anybody else is doing, because actually it's not one of my business. I just need to take care of my own stuff and share it if I feel it's up to being shown in public. But I do like to encourage people to take up their own creative, whatever it is, definitely.
And those of you who are entrepreneurs, what do you think about what Louise's perspective is? Because from my point of view, I find that entrepreneurs tend to focus more on the value and, like how much can their product or their service be sold for, whereas artists tend to focus on the quality of what they're doing. And as Louise is saying, I just do it for myself. It doesn't really matter how much it's worth to somebody else as long as it's of value to me. What do the rest of you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a corporate career, but also I'm a professional musician, and I can resonate with what you say, because I actually put so much pressure on myself commercially. Now I'm not making music for a label, and I don't have that pressure of performing in front of audiences and all of that. I'm loving it again. And I really laugh now because I'm also teaching creatives to get more creative. But yeah, when I think back how much time I wasted by, trying to compare myself, and it's so freeing what you said. And actually in the corporate world, yeah, I mean, there's lots of mirrors to that. It's not different at all. And I think there's a lot of power when people, even in a corporate sense, product development, yes, you have to be, kind of disrupting the market and all these lovely words. But in reality, if you've got a great product, it's so freeing just to be able to work on it in isolation, just as much as it's important to try and stack up against the outside world.
I would add to that too, that I think it is true that when you're doing as an entrepreneur, first of all, if we expand our definition of creativity, it can be the arts, and there's so many other ways to be creative and have our full expression as an entrepreneur. And when you're an entrepreneur, if you're creating, you can bring your full creativity into your work, and whatever you're doing, even if other people have the same labels, coach, consultant, trainer, whatever kind of business you're offering or similar products, there is no competition when you're truly present, truly doing what's yours to do, following your own unique emergence, following your impulses, your instincts, because even if everybody in a group are creativity coaches, how they do it will be different, what they offer will be different, who they're designed to do it for will be different, who resonates with it, who's called to it. So I think releasing, holding that there is no competition for your unique self. There's no competition for who you are and how you do it. And that frees you to not look at how other people are doing it. It frees you. You can still be focused on the goals or the objectives in business, which is a part of it. But how you get there is your unique path. And so being informed more from within and creating from the inside out will bring you more of your unique expression on how to do it than looking outside to what others are doing. So I think it could be a both and inside out and outside in. But the idea is that if you're truly connected to your inner core and your creative self, there really is no competition to do exactly what you're doing in the way you're doing it.
Okay, this leads me to this question of how big is our presence? The reason I asked this question is when I first started coaching about 20 years ago, I remember going to this lecture where it was Guy Levine, I still remember his name. He was saying, well, until you've got a database of 1,000 contacts in your network, you're not really going to make much of an impact. Your presence is not going to be and that was 20 years ago. And now, if anyone's got 1,000 contacts, that doesn't seem very many at all. Whereas 20 years ago, that seemed like, you've got like one of those Rolex databases, 1,000 contacts. And now it's like you'd have to have 100,000 to make that kind of impact. So what do the rest of you think in terms of, has social media made this kind of our ability to be present, has it made it more difficult or has it made it easier? What do you think?
Well, I think there's, just hearing everyone else talk, there's a direct link between impact and presence, I think. Because our assumptions around impact and what impact is drives a lot of our self-doubt, our self-worth. We will talk ourselves out of things because it won't have a predisposed impact. But I always think that if we think of impact just in terms of profit, growth and all of that, then all the magic goes, doesn't it? You might as well make widgets in a factory, which I used to do. So there's something around that. For me, it depends. That's my annoying answer to most questions. It depends. For me, Instagram is amazing. It's connected me with so many people who are interested in and buy my work. But that would be as effective if it was 20 people as it is with however many thousands of people. So I think if we think of it in terms of absolute numbers and an absolute strategy, I always say to people, well, it's a tool there to be used for your benefit. You're not a slave to it. I think it's maybe when we become a slave to it and it sort of becomes a bit addictive, that dampens our present. It can trigger all sorts of self-doubts. I've made a piece of artwork just for me and it's got no likes. I must be rubbish type of thing.
Yeah, that's the pressure, isn't it? That our value can be dictated by the number of likes that we have. What do the rest of you think?
Can I tell a personal story? It's about really the impact and how big my personal network should be for this impact to be real. For my whole life, I have been involved in some creative activities. In childhood, I studied music, I went to fine art school, I did a lot of theater, but when I grew up, I ended up studying economics at university. And then I spent 7 years working in finance, in the corporate world, in multinational corporations, etc. And then finally, I realized that I can't do it anymore. I need creativity in my life. So I quit a very successful career, and I went to study photography. And then since then, my creative adventure is going on. So looking at myself, my best friend, who was also following more or less the same path, also quit her career in a very successful, very big corporation and went to study music. Looking at her, another friend of hers also quit her job and went to study what she always wanted to study. And then looking at that girl, another friend of her did the same. And I really don't know where this change stopped, if it stopped at all. So in my personal network, it was only one person I impacted. But then it went on. And I don't know, even if it's just 9 people begin reflection, am I really doing in the world what is fulfilling for me, what I'm supposed to do? I think it is already a very great deal. And I don't need the network of 5,000 people to make that impact. It's just like Michelle said, I just need to be me. I need to be true to myself, to my energy, and all the rest will follow. And as we said, it will attract the correct people for me, the correct clients, the people who resonate with me, and it will go on.
Well, as you know, I'm in academia, and in academia, it's all to do with how many people have read your work. And just a few days ago, I saw an article. It was pointed out to us that this person had 40,000 followers, and so therefore he has a good reputation. And that's where this thing of 40,000, but it's I thought you just had to have a few thousand to be credible and to feel that you have a presence. But now the bar has been lifted. And yeah, go ahead, Louise. I can see you.
I think I use social media, and yes, I have spent time sort of finding out the people who I think would be my client that I identify, look at the profiles, and I've done that over a long period of time. But I read them and connect, because obviously I don't want to be going to other galleries and business to sell my art where you lose so much in commission. You think, why? And yet I produce so much art, I need to sell it as well. And I have, I have obviously Maslow's theory of needs to take care of as well. But by building, by showing up and using it authentically. But when I post, I don't care whether it gets no likes. I don't care whether it gets lots of likes. I'm putting that information out there. And yes, by building a presence, then yes, I've got more chance of somebody, the right person, seeing a piece of art. So I think social media for artists is, if you use it in an authentic and the right way, and not get hooked up as to, oh gosh, I must be an influencer or any of that nonsense, but just use it as a tool. I think it allows a lot of artists to get in front of people that would otherwise never have heard of them. And so that way of increasing your presence. But it's like any business, you have to do a bit of marketing, don't you? And why not use a free tool? You know, but don't get hooked up. I never bother looking at the insights and all the rest of it because, well, what would I do with that information anyway? It's irrelevant to me.
Okay, any other? Richard, what about your work in branding? You know, because branding is...
It's all about presence.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and everything I do, an organization says, where's my awareness? You know, because awareness is a pipeline to sales or inquiries or everything like that. And there is always a danger of chasing that. If you chase that, then you're looking at what other people think. And it has, over life, has taught me that actually when you have a really good idea and you feel that idea, it just grows naturally. And you use the tools that are there. But actually, if you start from the point of like, okay, I'm doing some research on students. Students need to come to this university. What is it that that student likes? Therefore, I need to give them this so that this brand university drives more students to them. No, look, and it's very true within universities. What do you actually offer? Start with that first. Any organization, start with the idea. Start with where your passion is. What's great about it? And then what you find then is the academics start sharing it. Everybody shares it. But if it's a good idea, people love to connect with it. So often I've had a director say, oh, so-and-so isn't going to buy into that. Oh, we won't get them buying into it. Or sales won't do this or that. But if the idea is amazing and it moves people and it connects with them, they buy into it. And that's it. So my whole world is about emotions. And about if I feel it, if they feel it, then the idea comes that's related to that feeling. And then you communicate that feeling, other people feel it and they connect. And so for me, the waves that go through people are feelings, are emotions. And if you start an idea with emotions, that's what resonates. And it goes beyond whatever tools, whether we've got this media, that media. So just start with the idea and the feeling. So anyway, that's what I think.
Yeah. That goes back to what Michelle was saying about resonance as well. You know,
oh, totally. If you don't feel that frequency for that idea, or you play with the emotion, that you balance emotions and thoughts, and you ladder them up until they're just freaking you out. And then when you're at that point when it's just like, whoa, and then your brain shuts down because the next morning you wake up and the idea comes, it's like, I can't think of it, but I'm building my frequency up. I'm building it up, and it's there. And it's like, oh, it means so much to me. It means this much. And then, oh, I can't get it. Oh, and then just comes. That's just lovely. Yeah, anyway.
And the other thing I wanted to say was that all of us we use social media. And in my journey on social media 20 years ago, first of all, when I started my freelance work, it was about who do you know? You know, who, like even on LinkedIn, like find out who do you know, and like connecting with those that you know. But then there comes a tipping point, and I'm sure for each one of you, like when you think about it, there came a point in our career when it was no longer about who do we know, it was about who knows us. And so what, you know, where is it in that journey of our presence where it suddenly shifts from not from who do we know, it's who knows us. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add, for me, it's know yourself. That's the thing that immediately jumps out. Because if you get caught in who knows me or who I know, I am just chasing that, banging my head between two things. And I've been there, you know, because I work in branding and corporate, and I'm stood in front of people pretty much every day selling myself and thinking, please buy me, you know, please like me so that I can do whatever I need to be able to do. But if I just do not, it's about knowing yourself. That's me. That's
the rest of you. Did you feel?
if you go thinking that, I think whatever you're doing, if you show up and you're authentic, and you do show up, because you can't be found if you're not seen anywhere, whether it's in a face-to-face meeting or whatever. But by showing it authentically, then you will attract in and make those connections which are the right ones for you, and it sort of ripples out. But I think that authenticity and the resonance is part of the key things of however you're putting yourself out there.
Okay, the rest of you?
I remember in the early days of my business when the focus I had was not that common. Now it's a lot more common, but back then it wasn't. And so when I would go to different meetings or put my work out there, it was rare that anybody even looked at it or heard it or understood it. But there was always usually one or two people in the room that would come and say, tell me more. And that was sort of built. And then all of a sudden they'd be, oh, let's bring you into our organization, or so it might just start with one person out of 20 resonates with your authentic self and what you're putting out there. But then that person might bring you into a larger group. And then all of a sudden, oh, okay. And then one person there. And then eventually it builds up to where you have more people connecting with what your authentic offers are.
Okay. Steve, any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what the others have said. I think it's counterintuitive, the response to this. For me, it comes simply down to interested people are interesting. If people are genuinely interested in something, they appear as interesting. And the common way of thinking about it is, no, try and appear interesting. But so interested people are interesting. So just spend your entire time doing stuff you're interested in, and other people will be interested in it. And if they're not, then fine, they can go and be interested in something else. This has to be an effortless process. But by effortless, I don't mean easy, because it's quite hard to make it effortless.
Yeah. And Peter?
I mirror what everyone's saying, that I think in the last 2 years of growing a business, what I've learned is more about myself, if I'm honest. You have to dig deep, and I'm surprising myself every day. And I'm a coach, so I think I understand the psychology of it. But if I'm honest, so many things have unearthed, and I really mirror what Richard said. Yeah, you've got to really go on a personal journey of just exploration of yourself. And it's not that it's ego. It's just like, oh, wow, that's how it really works. Oh, and be really humbled when people really don't get what you're trying to put out there. Because that's the thing, whenever I haven't got any real traction, it's because my authenticity's been off. And it wasn't because I was trying to be some dodgy salesman. I got a bit needy, or I got overexcited about something I hadn't really tested, And then the other bit to that, which is layers and layers, is just being okay. And I guess from, working with record labels and putting myself out there, I can mirror, what the other artists said on this as well. You just end up getting, I wouldn't say battle hardened, but you just be okay with putting it out. Because for me, if I decide to do something, I'm cool with it already. And I'm really happy to get the feedback. If it's not quite a good fit, then no problem, I'll do something else,
Yeah, there's that thing about creativity being personal. And because it's so personal, we can be very vulnerable. And at the same time, we need to make it public as well. If we want to sell our work, then it has to. We need to be courageous enough to be vulnerable, to risk getting negative feedback.
I think that's a really interesting point, because a big part of my work is collaboration. So I hung up my design skills years ago to some degree as a consultant now. And so I work with designers, photographers, filmmakers, a whole load of stuff, writers. But then I also work with clients, and they've all got ideas and it all contributes. And I just don't know where the idea actually comes from in some ways. So I think you have to try not only find this authenticity in yourself, but enable others to feel that and really connect with that. And so often, why I got into training people on creativity was I'd work with marketing teams who actually were supposed to be the creative side of the business, but just got driven down this whole delivery. And so they would just say, Richard, what have you got? Can you share it with these people? And I tried to work out what it was, and for ages I wasn't sure. But in a way, it's so hard for people within corporate organizations to do that when there's so much expectations on them. it is, you know, we are in such a blessed situation when we work independently, creatively, because we feel that joy inside ourselves. Other people, it just makes me cry sometimes when you feel how much they are losing who they are. Like it impacted me so much this morning, my story about remembering how beautiful I felt and how over time that just got, never died, but just got smaller. And so that's what's really amazing, is just now sharing stuff with other people, that you see sparks come up in people, and then you, and it moves and it moves and it waves, and you lose yourself in other people. And so I'm just really enjoying listening. I know I'm talking now, but I am really enjoying listening to what everyone else says. I'll shut up.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Just to round this up now, these are just the beginnings of the conversations, and what we are going to do every week until the next conference. The themes for the next conference are synergy, synchronicity, serendipity. And I know that as creatives, all those three concepts, I know you're very familiar with them. And every week we're going to have a session at 10 o'clock and 7 o'clock UK time, where we can continue these discussions. So half an hour at 10 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. The reason we have those two times are so that the people in the US can join and those in Australia can join as well. And they will continue weekly from Saturday, from next Saturday. I'll send you details about that in our communication channel. So thank you very much for your participation, and I hope to continue these discussions with you regularly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think the important thing is, like, our presence as a collective of creatives, that gains momentum and that creates a positive impact. Just, you know, in an emergent way that we, as Irina was saying, we might not even be aware of what these different unforeseen connections the impact that they can create.